Hey guys, it's the Interior Auto Mechanic. Today we're going to be swapping over to these 1zz injectors on our Toyota Yaris that we've named Project Slow Kart. Alright guys, so today we're swapping over to 1zz injectors. These specific injectors are off of a 2007 Toyota Corolla. I believe 2006 through 2008 will work as well. We went with 1zz because they have a better flow rate than the stock 1nz. I believe the stock 1nz is somewhere around 190cc to 200, and if I remember correctly, the Corolla ones, the 1zz, are around 240 to 250. And that might not sound like a lot, but considering that we've done all of our cold air intake, we've done our bigger throttle body, we've done our intake manifold spacer, and we have a ported intake manifold, we're going to want to add a little bit extra fuel. So after we pull our fuse and crank the motor over and depressurize the system, we can take a couple bolts loose, pull the fuel rail up, and then simply replace our injectors. Now we will want to replace our O-rings. I've already got a set of those, and I'll show you how to do that, but this should be a relatively simple and straightforward job. So we come right over here to our fuse block, pop our lid off, find our one that says EFI, which is right there. It's 20 amp fuse right at the top. Grab our little built-in fuse puller, pull our 20. Now we'll go crank the car. Alright guys, and with that, since the system is depressurized, we can go ahead and take our two 12mm bolts out that hold in our fuel rail, and also we can go ahead and disconnect a few of these plugs that plug into the fuel injector. So in no particular order, I'll just start taking these out. And it's pretty hard, you can't get these screwed up. They go black, gray, black, gray. You can pull your harness up and out of the way. That way we can get to our bolts that are right behind here. I'm also going to disconnect this other plug here just to make this wiring harness a little bit easier to maneuver. So let's go ahead and take our 12mm bolts out that hold our fuel rail on. And guys, it is a good idea to wear gloves and also eye protection of some kind while doing this job, because fuel getting in your eye does not feel good. Lay these up there, and I'm going to grab some eye protection. Alright, now that I got my big goofy eye protection on, we can pretty much simply just lift up on this fuel rail. Now, over here, I'm hoping you'll be able to see this. So over here, Toyota designed this valve cover to have this little hook that kind of comes over the fuel rail line that comes in. So I'm assuming they did this in case, fuel pressure ever got too high and it pushed this back off. If nothing else, the valve cover would keep it held down. It's kind of a little bit of a pain because you have limited access of how much you can actually move the rail around, but it's not the end of the world. We'll work around it. Worst case scenario, if we've got to pull the valve cover off, we will. But I've done this job before on a different Yaris, and we didn't have to pull the valve cover off. We should have enough room. So we've got our bolts out. System's depressurized. All of our plugs are undone. So we can lift up on this. And you do want to be cautious because there will be a little bit of fuel that probably comes out of these, like that. And man, it does not smell great. And pop each one of these out. Something to keep in mind as well, and this kind of applies to a car that's been sitting, but it can also apply to one that if you just live in an area that has a lot of squirrels or rodents or anything like that, they get up here and they'll put, acorns or nuts or just little pieces of dirt and whatever be mindful of that, because anything that falls down into the motor is not good. So if you have, before you do this job, if you look down in here and you see that there's a lot of, you know, little pieces of debris or anything like that, take a vacuum, take a small piece of like rubber hose or something like this, tape that to the end of your shop vac, and then just stick it right down in there so that it can suck the debris out from there. You want to get as much of that debris out as possible so that you have the least chance of it getting back into your motor. So we've got 2 more injectors to pull off. The last one is going to be the trickiest. Always is, because right back against the hook that I was showing you on the valve cover, you only have so much room to work with. But I think we got it. And this fuel rail still has some fuel in it. It will. It's going to leak out a little bit, but that's okay. Just obviously don't do this near an open flame, and don't do this while the motor is hot. And there is our other fuel injector. Unfortunately, when I was pulling our caps off of our injectors at the bottom here, that's how these sit on this is our factory injector. These up here, I went ahead and pulled off the other rail, because what I was hoping to do, I didn't think that our little end cap things would be super worn, but every single one of them is pretty worn. Since this is fuel, I really don't want to have to do this job twice, or really what I don't want the car to catch on fire. I'm going to make some phone calls, and it won't be any time for you, but it's going to take me probably a couple hours to get these rounded up. So we are back. It has actually been a day, because I had to order these parts, and here's the part number. This is from GB Remanufacturing, and the part number is 8-024A. We're only going to be using 2 of these. We'll be using this bigger one, and the small one here would not work for our application due to a difference in size. We've got our injectors all ready to go back in. We have our new end cap piece, and then also we have our new O-ring right up here as well. So the only thing that I've done, I lubed the O-ring just a little bit with some silicone spray that we had. That way, when we go to pop it back in the fuel rail, it should go in relatively easy. The hardest one is going to be this furthest one, just because of where this hook is located on the valve cover. So we'll start there. We'll work our way over, because as we go over further, we gain more room to be able to put the injectors in. The furthest one over, you have the least amount of room. So we'll go ahead and start with that, and hopefully be able to bolt everything up, fire it up, and go from there. Got our injectors all put back in our rail. We're going to tighten our rail down with our 12mm bolts. We're going to plug everything back up and put our fuse back in, check for leaks before we fire once we prime the system, and after that we should be good to fire it up. If you've unplugged this plug, do not forget to plug that one back up. So the last step, we got to put our fuse back into our fuse block for our EFI. That is popped back in. We can put our little fuse puller back in our box as well. That is super handy if you need it. That's there. And yeah, we should be able to go ahead and prime the system. What we're going to do is basically cycle the key on and off quite a few times. Come back up here before we start it. Make sure that we don't see any leaks or smell any major leaks. And yeah, other than that, we can start it up. Alright, so I would say overall that this was definitely a win. Throttle response definitely feels quicker thanks to all of our intake side. We've got more fuel now, so the next step, we want to make sure that the motor breathes properly. So we're going to be doing an exhaust manifold, full exhaust back, but before we do that, we can't forget we've got to do our PCV hose. I've already ordered a catch can for that. So the next video is going to show me installing the catch can on this car. Going forward, we still have our big brake setup to do, we have our exhaust manifold to do, we have our full exhaust to do, and our suspension. So we're working through this slowly. As a really good professor of mine said before, we're going to work through this like you would eat a hippo. It's going to be one bite at a time. So my focus was intake first, then it was fuel, now it's going to be exhaust, then we'll go further, into suspension and brakes and all of that stuff. And I also want to give a very big thank you to our friend Mike that gave me these injectors. He had an extra set laying around. So thank you very much, Mike. We've put them to good use, and we'll see how they do. With that being said, I'm going to end the video here. As usual, huge shout out to our video sponsors for this build series, FTG Tuning and Fumoto oil drain valves. If you are looking to build a Yaris for yourself, looking to get an ECU tuned for a Yaris, contact FTG. All of their information is right down in the description down below. And if you're looking just to make your oil change a lot easier, contact Fumoto, check out their website. They've got products for just about every make and model, and I'm sure both of them would appreciate your business. As usual, thank you for watching. Good luck on your projects, and have a great day.